Hello and welcome to FPL Have a Beer, where I ask you to have a beer with me while I talk about FPL. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'm very near at the time of recording this. I'm recording this a couple of weeks before it's going to come out to getting near to 200 subscribers, and it would be lovely if I could get that by Christmas. So please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. So welcome to another interview in a interviews series I'm doing. I keep changing the name. It's either Meet the Manager FPL Manager series or Meet the Content Creator interview series, where I ask one of our lovely FPL content creators about their experiences of content creation, their thoughts on FPL and mental health, and we have a general chat about FPL towards the end. So for the 11th interview in this series, I am delighted to welcome on FPL Yelena. Yelena, I'm delighted to have you on the channel. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on.
Thank you so much for having me. I've messaged you a few weeks ago, but I absolutely love the episodes. They're so easy to listen to. And you've been upgraded. I have my favorite podcasts for different things. And I've got you on the Dog Walk podcast, which is like
Okay.
the top podcast that I
Oh wow.
completely focus on, listen the whole way through.
It's amazing to think when you're picking up your dog mess, you could probably have my voice in your ears.
Yeah. And the Steve-O episode, that's just been about 6 dog walks now.
Yeah, that was quite long. We do love him, though. We do love him. Um,
Yeah, it's fab.
so Yelena, I usually start off by asking, as you probably know, some sort of general questions. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I'm sure most people watching will probably know who you are, but where do you live? Who do you support? Your first memories of football, just things like that.
So I recently moved to Hitchin. I was in London. I support Chelsea. And I hate being a Chelsea fan because we've got a really bad reputation. I didn't really realise this
Mm.
until I got into the FPL community because most of my friends were Chelsea fans or Spurs fans. And then now I've kind of gone out into the big wide world, talking about football a lot more with people. And I realised that our fan base does not have the best
I think
reputation.
I think it's also the Roman Abramovich thing, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like now it's Man City more, isn't it? Like
Yeah, I think the Abramovich situation, I was hoping it would humble us a bit more as a fan base, but we seem to have just gone back to where we were. And I think the culture of sacking managers when things aren't going right probably isn't the best way. Because I think, look at Spurs, you're there, the fans are there during the down moments, they're there for the highs. Like recently when they beat Man City, it must have been absolutely amazing being a Spurs fan at that time.
mm,
Whereas with Chelsea, I think we're so used to winning and having this certain standard, we're not very good at not being in the top four.
yeah,
So
it's been quite a big drop off, and also you still are
yeah,
like, even though Abramovich is gone, you still are spending the like crazy money. So it's still, it almost feels like to a non-fan that he's still there. If you get what I mean.
yeah, definitely. When I think about how much we spent on transfers, it's embarrassing considering how we got on. We were okay towards the end of last season, but yeah, it wasn't an easy time, I think, being a Chelsea fan. And then I've been playing FPL now. I've been playing it, I think, for about 6 years, but properly for the last 3 years once I started making content.
Okay.
And I didn't know what like an overall rank was until I started making content. So I thought I was quite good at FPL. And then I discovered my overall rank was in the 2 millions, 3 millions.
Oh god.
Yeah, so it adds on quite a lot of pressure, I think, when you think you're of a certain level. And then I definitely wasn't.
I'm going to take you back a minute, Yelena, because I haven't actually asked you about FPL yet. You're jumping ahead in my question list, which always freaks me out. How long? When did you start supporting Chelsea? Like, what were your first memories of football?
From like birth, really. My dad from birth sounds very dramatic.
Was there
Came
like
out
was
as a
there was
mascot.
was there your mum like prenatally pumping Match of the Day into?
Yeah, I was born in Stamford Bridge, just before kickoff. No, my dad. So my dad's from former Yugoslavia,
Okay.
and when he moved over to the country, he lived in Nottingham for a while. So his first exposure to football was Forest. So I've got a real soft spot for Nottingham Forest as well. But when I was born, he was a Chelsea fan. He just kind of gravitated towards a London club, moved to Essex, and so we've always since I was little, I've always followed Chelsea and Forest.
Mm.
Chelsea's the one that I would class myself as a Chelsea fan, but I'm always keeping an eye on Forest and hope they do well. But it was a struggle when they got promoted into the Premier League because suddenly I had two teams that I really liked. Whereas it's quite nice. I'm also from near Southend, so I've loved Southend United. So it's quite nice having those teams that you want to cheer on, but now we've got Forest versus Chelsea.
Yeah.
It's a bit more
Are,
tough.
are Southend still in the league?
Yeah, they got they had a bit of a I can't swear, can I? They had a
No.
poor season.
Swear away. I pride this channel as swear as much as you like. Not pride, but you can
Freedom.
swear as much as you like. Yeah.
Yeah, they had quite a rocky season, but I think they're getting back on it. But because I haven't been living there now, I used to go to games and things, and it was a nice, like, it just felt like a very homely club. It felt just proper fans, and there's no one there filming the game with their phones. I mean, I'm guilty of it because I like going to matches and kind of like filming the food or taking photos and things. But it feels like proper football. Whereas I think sometimes you go to the Premier League, like I love Spurs, and I think the experience there is incredible, but you kind of want that rugged football stadium feeling. Whereas at the Spurs stadium, I feel like I'm in America at like an NFL game or something.
So is the first memory Nottingham Forest, Southend?
It will be Chelsea. It will be
Chelsea.
being able to stay up late watching a Chelsea game with my brother, because I've also got two brothers and one of them's really into football.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of my excuse. I'm the youngest of three, so it was my excuse not to have to go to bed and then just kind of like sitting up and enjoying it. And I think I properly started following it probably when I was about 9 or 10, but it was always on and we were allowed to kind of make time for it. My mum's not a huge football fan, but if Chelsea was on TV, we were going to watch it as a family.
Awesome. And something before we get on to talk about FPL, you mentioned when we were messaging beforehand, you're a big critic of football stadium food. Is that right?
It's my passion. I love
It's your
it
passion.
so much. Yeah. I love going to different stadiums, and everyone, like Brentford Stadium I went to last season, their sausage rolls out of this world.
Yeah.
And anyone that is going, I'm like, you have to get a sausage roll, you have to try them. And then Brighton have really, really good pies. Nottingham Forest also has good sausage rolls. But there's just I love like the whole atmosphere. I hate it if I ever turn up late to a football match and I don't have that time to go around and just kind of sample the delicacies.
who's got the worst food?
Oh, I went to a Peterborough game last season,
Oh.
and it was dry. There wasn't really anything to rave about. I think we ended up not actually finishing what we ate in the stadium, went outside, found a chip van, and then that was our sustenance for the day.
Awesome. Okay, so I think you've sort of mentioned it already. So you started playing FPL. Did you say 6 or fantasy football? Was FPL your first game you played?
Yeah, first one.
Yeah, and you said about 6 years ago.
Yeah, around them.
Yeah. So what were your first memories like? So you said in the first season you didn't do that great overall. Yeah.
Yeah, I think until 3 years ago, my ranks are definitely in the millions. I mean, I think the first season I started playing, I built my team in game week 27. So I
Bloody
definitely
hell.
did not know what I was doing. And it was very much a situation of, well, this player's scored loads of points, so I'll just bring them into my team. I went for full Chelsea, so I'd have 3 Chelsea players all the time. But I had mini leagues at work. That's what got me into it, because everyone was discussing football in their mini leagues. And I thought this is quite a good way to get in on the chat and join in the conversation. So we sometimes had rules. Like one year, I wasn't allowed to bring in any Spurs players. And then the Spurs fan in our group was only allowed to bring Arsenal players, not Spurs, and things like
Okay.
that. So it was quite a fun, engaging way to play. And then it's still now, even though I would like to get a good rank, I'm still very focused on that mini league. That's my priority.
Oh, you're still in it?
Yeah, still
Okay.
going.
Are you still in the
And
same job or?
no, I got made redundant actually from it in the summer. So
Sorry.
yeah, no, it's fine, but it's nice. It's a nice way for us to all stay in touch still.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
we're still ripping into each other.
I've still been. I was in the actual first mini league I was in was when I was working at. I'll just say I was working at the University of Derby, and I left. And it was the most competitive league. There was 3 of us, and I won it the first season, then another guy won it the second season, then another guy won it the third season, and it was kind of came down to a tiebreaker, and I won that one, and then they kicked me out. They kicked me out of the league, and I was so annoyed. Like, I hadn't worked there for 3 years, so I suppose they had every right to kick me out of the league. But anyway, okay, so you're playing FPL. So I've got a load of questions here. I'm going to try and put this in a succinct way. So the first thing I usually ask is, when did you decide to first become an FPL content creator? And I will prefix that was that before or after your current relationship had started?
So it was before the relationship.
Right.
I think in my second year of playing, there was a job that I really wanted working with the Premier League, but in government relations. and I wanted something to make me stand out. So I was like, I'm going to start filming me talking about my FPL team. And then that's
Okay.
just kind of an additional thing I can put in. But that was, I think I only made about 3 or 4 videos, and it was very, very basic. And I didn't get the job, sadly. But then I didn't make any more videos, and they've been made private because they were absolutely awful.
Okay.
And then a couple of years later, 3 seasons ago, I started making F1 fantasy content because I absolutely loved Formula One.
Okay. I didn't even realize there
Um,
was F1 fantasy.
yeah, it's much, much smaller than
What do they
FPL.
what do they get points for in that?
It's like you get points for qualification, obviously where you finish, if you get the fastest lap, and then you have 2 constructors that you pick. And then
Okay.
I haven't played it for a while now, but I think you pick 5 drivers.
Okay.
But this season was really interesting with it because they made it's similar to how they increased the prices with Haaland. With
Yeah.
Verstappen, they just made him unaffordable basically, unless you
Okay.
took loads of hits. So it's really interesting. But I didn't really have any friends that were that into F1, so I thought that was a nice route into the F1 community.
Yeah.
So I was making a few videos there, and then I thought, oh, well, seeing as I'm doing this, because obviously the F1 season is not as frequent with races as FPL with football. So I was like, oh, I'll start making fantasy football content as well.
And what year would this have been? 3 years ago?
This would have been 3 years. So yeah, 2021, 22 season, I think I started. Um, yeah, and then it all kind of went from there. And then because FPL was so much bigger and it was taking up so much more time, I stopped doing the fantasy F1, which I kind of regret because I did really enjoy that. And I think with football, I'm sure we'll get into it later, but that can ruin my mood, whether it's a bad FPL game week, Chelsea do badly or something. Whereas with F1, I just really enjoy it. I don't have a particular like love for a team or a driver. I just think it's really entertaining.
Okay.
So I think fantasy F1 was easier for me to play, but
Yeah.
unfortunately it kind of fell by the wayside.
Okay. So the next question I'm going to ask, right, which I think I did kind of email you, talk about this when we were chatting beforehand, but not exactly. So you, as if anyone doesn't know, I'm sure probably most people watching are, you're with Az from FPL Black Box. So first
Just signs of giveaway.
Oh yes, and we're in the FPL Black Box, so I'm honoured. So what I was trying to figure out is, are you the first FPL romance? And let me define what that is. So that's not. So I would call Lee and Sam from FPL Family. They're the first couple of FPL because they were there. But what I'm defining as romance is basically, did you meet due to FPL or not?
Yeah, it was FPL Twitter.
So you are our first FPL.
Yeah,
romance.
so it's interesting because I think I told my mum and she said, oh, I wish you just met on Tinder or something because that's so nerdy. And I was like, I know. And then when people say, how did you meet? I'm like, oh, Twitter. And they go, Twitter? That's weird. And I'm like, yeah, it's fantasy football Twitter. And then if they don't know that I make content, it's then a whole conversation. Like, oh, I actually have this like other life.
Okay, so who messaged who first? Can I ask?
I think he messaged me, but I was terrified of Az because he was this kind of big shot in the FPL community, had all these followers. And our first interaction was I uploaded a photo of me with Ross, FPL Raptor, and someone commented it and said Beauty and the Beast. And then Az, who I'd never spoken to before, replied and said, don't call Yelena a beast. So I thought, he hates me. I hate this person. Who is he? And then he messaged me once, I think just to say, because it was when I started uploading videos. And then he was just saying, oh, I really like the content, like keep it up. It was a very bland message, but I didn't reply because I was like, no, you called me a beast.
Do you know like when you're flirting in school, you never actually say nice things. It's always like,
yeah,
you know, you're horrible. It sounds a bit like that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It didn't work. And then I tweeted about going home to Essex for Christmas. And it turns out that Az also his parents are in Essex. And then he just messaged me and said, oh, whereabouts in Essex are you from? And I thought, well, if he's an Essex boy, he'll be okay. So I replied. And then it kind of went from there. But it was a weird one because there were people that I'd met through the community. And you message on Twitter. And then because whenever someone was in London, I was like, oh, we should meet up for a drink. So then that kind of happened with Az, but halfway through meeting up, we were like, is this a date? Because neither of us really knew where we were going with it.
Yeah.
And then, that was coming up to 2 years ago now. So it's going strong.
Awesome. So yeah, one thing you said what I might want to ask you about. So obviously lots of people, I'm going to say mainly males, but I'm sure females as well, will be playing a lot of fantasy football. Maybe they're partner isn't into it, I'm guessing it must help quite a bit that you guys both. I mean, in terms of meeting as well, that you both share a very similar
Yeah,
passion.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think
Sorry. Go
I
ahead.
I was just, I think it was nice because it was even having mutual friends, people in the FPL Twitter kind of community. And then whereas had been around for a lot longer, he knew a lot more people. So then I could say, oh, what's so and so like? Or what's the dynamic with this? And even like FPL gossip, he filled me in on the kind of lore of the community. And there was so much I was learning, but it took away that awkwardness where you don't really know what to talk about because we just had FPL to fall back on.
Yeah, I suppose even on your first date, you're not going to get that awkward silence, are you? It's just going to be
No.
FPL. Would you? Okay, I've written this one. This is a bit of a joke, but also not. Would you recommend to any FPL players that they seek a partner who plays FPL?
Maybe we could set up a dating show. We could have
Okay,
like blind date.
or a dating app, a fantasy football.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, no, actually, yeah, we could
I
be.
love that idea.
I could.
I think
So go.
I think it's great. I think because the thing is, we obviously make plans at the weekend, but we'll both know if there's a big game that we both want to watch. We don't have that awkwardness of, oh, I'd rather not like go and see your mum because I'd like to watch whatever it is or something like that. It's quite nice. It's just this unspoken on the weeks where football's on, that will kind of be the priority, and then we'll
Yeah,
work around that. Whereas international break, the calendar just gets filled up with things. We're like, right, go, go, go. We've got so much to catch up on.
I guess it doesn't have. It doesn't really have to be a mutual love of FPL. It could just be a mutual love of football, really, couldn't it? Like,
Yeah, definitely. It
uh,
helps though with FPL with the bad game weeks that the
mm,
other person understands that you're not just being dramatic. You've actually put in a lot of time to have like a captaincy blank or something.
mm. Um, do you give each other tips on who he or you should be recommending in your FPL videos for the week?
I try not to listen to him. He tries not to advise me because we've had a few seasons ago, I was obsessed with Ben Mee and I really wanted to bring him into my team. And as I was saying, oh no, because we play very differently. I mean, you've watched Black Box,
Mm,
very, very data driven. Whereas mine is, oh, I like that person, I'll bring them in. It's much more casual.
mm.
So Ben Mee was one that I really liked the look of. And as was like, oh no, his data is not very good and defensively X, Y, and Z. And then Ben Mee like, scored a bullet header that weekend. And that happens all the time. And as now, I had another one last season, it was John McGinn. And then he just suddenly went on this kind of rampage, couldn't like getting these attacking returns. So now as is like, I don't think I should advise you because it always seems to backfire. And then he doesn't really listen to me, which is probably quite good as well. Because otherwise there's been times where I've said, oh, I would have gone for so-and-so if it wasn't for you, which is a lot to put on someone.
Yeah, I guess it adds an additional conflict dynamic to the relationship you don't really need, doesn't it?
Yeah, when I'm making dinner and I don't make him a portion. That's for John McGinn.
Um, so if we go back to your experiences of creating content, so you've been creating content for quite a while, I guess. Like, has it? I mean, what were your early experiences like, and have they changed over time? I mean, I have watched some of your videos, but only really sort of maybe over the last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you could tell us about that.
So I missed the first season I made content because everything was really exciting. So I'd use my phone. I didn't have a microphone, didn't have any lighting, and then I'd prop my phone up wherever I could balance it. But my storage was really low, so I had to film it in 5 minute increments and then
Whoa.
stop, put it onto my laptop. So it would take me ages to film, but then I would just screen record whatever I was showing on the screen. So it did take a while to edit because I had to put everything together. But I really enjoyed it and it felt really natural.
Mm,
And then as I grew more of an audience, the kind of expectations shifted a bit. And I think, from people where they were giving me advice and it was like, get a green screen, get a better camera, get a microphone, do this, do that. And then it started to feel like a chore. So I feel like there was a real difference. The first year, I loved my content and I'd come home from a night out, be a bit tipsy and be like, oh, I need to do a team selection. And then I'd just film it. And it was really fun.
mm.
And then I started doing a like tipsy team selection where I'd get another FPL content creator in. We'd have a few beers, chat about our teams. Like it was just a really fun dynamic. And then the second season, I felt this weird pressure of like, okay, like Ross, Harry, and Oscar are doing it this way. I should do it that way. And I'm going to start presenting like tables of data and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I look back now at the content and I just think it's so boring. It's
What?
so not me.
Where was the pressure coming from? Because you wanted to get more subscribers, or just what? What was the? views or?
I think it was probably from like well wishers that wanted to help my channel along,
Right.
but people have a kind of different expectation of like, well, this is what works and these are the big YouTubers, so that's what you should go towards.
Mm.
And I think, like I said, I think it all came from a good place, because even Az would say to me like, oh, why haven't you like moved your computer into this room because there's less of an echo? And then so then I was like filming in my study, which it felt like going to work, whereas before it was like balanced on my kitchen side, very very relaxed.
Mm.
And yeah, so I don't think my content was very good last season. And then this season I've started doing the vlogs at the weekend, which I just love, because it's made me cope with a bad game week in a better way, because I'll be really angry about something that's happened, but then I think at least this is quite interesting to view. So it spins it on its head a bit, and then I can still go out and about, but I'm still making content, rather than thinking I need to be home tonight because I need to put together that team selection video or early transfer thoughts, and I need to edit the graphics and that kind of thing. So I think I'm now finally getting back into a better rhythm where I'm really enjoying the content again.
That's good. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because the last two interviews I've done, which haven't come out yet, we've talked a bit about a lot of the content basically being the same, without wanting to criticise anyone, particularly like the daily videos. If I've watched Let's Talk FPL's Andy's one or Raptors one or whatever, there's really no point in me going and watching the rest of them, because it's just the same.
Yeah.
They're just repeating the same thing. So I think actually having the unique take on it you now sort of have defines you out, really, doesn't it? Like,
yeah. And also I obviously I really want to get a good rank. That is a goal. But my main thing is I just love the game and like talking to people, and like the work mini league. That's kind of my priority. And then I think, well, why am I giving people advice when my team's not very good? I don't have an impressive rank history. That's not really my USP, because why would you listen to me?
yeah. Does anyone in your work league watch you?
Yeah. But it's really funny because, again, this is where, when people say about the kind of inner circles with content creators and there must be a group chat with this information, all that kind of stuff, I don't think people realize just being on Twitter or Blue Sky, you're already at such an advantage on casual players.
Yeah.
So on a Friday, like clockwork, I'll have at least 3 of my friends message me, is so and so fair? Have you got any news on this person? And they think I've got all of this intel, but I'm like, it's just available on Twitter. I don't actually know anything.
No, I mean, the only person who really seems to know is Let's Talk Andy. He's the only one who really gets, because even like Raptor and stuff seem to get their information from Let's Talk. I mean, I'm sure some of them have got connections, but he's like he's the guy people contact, isn't he? And everyone else is just in a stream of information out to other people. That's how it appears, anyway.
And he's really good as well, because I think he has to hear from a source a certain amount of times before he'll release it. So whatever he says, you can basically like trust that it's true.
Yeah, I think in all my years of listening to him, maybe only like once or twice what he said wasn't didn't end up happening.
Yeah.
So Yelena, what are your what are the positives of being a content creator? And yeah, how did you? We've kind of touched on it a bit, but how did you stumble across the vlog style that you decided on this season? Did it just happen naturally, or did you think, I'm going to do this year?
Yeah, so I think when I was younger, I'd go on holidays. My family hated it because I just vlogged the whole thing, and they were like, "Don't film me, don't do this." But then when I put it all together, everyone was like, "Oh, this is so nice to watch back on." And again, I'd upload them to YouTube. They're all private, but it's really nice to kind of, I don't know, just keep those memories and then catch bits that you'd forget about otherwise. So then with the content, last season I thought I kind of wanted to pack it in a bit. I was getting quite bored, and I thought, but I love making videos. How can I combine the two? And then I was thinking about what I watch on YouTube, and it is the kind of vlog style. I don't know if you've heard of Casey Neistat. He did loads of vlogs in New York, and he was really big a couple of years ago, and that's kind of what got me into vlogging. So I thought, well, everyone can relate to what it's like having a bad game week or a good game week. So I'll give it a go. So my last video of last season was doing a watch along on the final day, when obviously you've got all the games at once. And I just put my camera on the table and just filmed mine and Az's reaction, then chopped it all together and put it into this vlog. And it got really nice feedback. So I thought, well, I can try doing something like that for the next season. And yeah, it's just, it's the most natural I think I've felt doing FPL content, because sometimes I do like looking at the stats, and there are times where I'll read something and think that is interesting and I'll mention it in a video. But it's more, I'd rather get across the fun side of the game and taking risks and having those picks that are really fun. Because I think if I have a differential that does well, I'm so much happier about that than if Haaland was to get a hat trick or something.
So you weren't inspired. I'm just going to mention it here. You weren't inspired by Steve-O filming cows at Heathrow Airport or anything like that. He
I mean, that is top quality.
he claims to be the originator of the FPL vlog. I think he's got it like trademarked and patented.
My dream is to do like a carpool karaoke with Steve-O, because I went through an emo phase when I was younger. So all of them like really like heavy music that he likes, I used to love and just play all the time. So I think if we can have some sort of screamo carpool karaoke segment, it'll be great.
I don't think FPL Juice would probably let you guys if you're on there
No,
together.
Nick would be fuming.
So yeah, I sort of mixed those two questions together. Sorry. So what would you say are the positives of being a content creator and also the negatives?
I think the positives are the community. Everyone is so nice. And I always think with sometimes, because I haven't live streamed for a while, but with the live streams, I'd always push myself to do it because I think there's times where I'm home alone or I've had a bad day and someone's streaming live and it feels like company and it just feels like you're part of something. And I think it's so nice being the person to bring people together and everyone's in the chat and having fun and things. And then I think also to remember, oh yeah, I remember that game week where something really good happened. The cons, I think everyone will say it's the trolls when you get the negative people in your comments. And I think it can really throw you off, especially if you've had a bad day and then you spend time making this video and then you've just got someone being so negative about you or about what you're doing. That can, yeah, be quite hard sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's where also like FPL events in person are really good because you never meet those trolls in real life. It's always the ones that are there for the love of the game and the community.
Great. I think we might get back on to talk about that a little bit with the mental health stuff. I was going to ask, do you watch your videos back then?
Mostly for a sense check. The vlogs I'll watch
For a what? Sorry.
because I'll like just to like check that I haven't left anything stupid in there.
Right,
so kind of like a proofread, but like a proof watch.
That's
and then the vlogs.
That's what I've been doing with these interviews. Just make sure I didn't say.
I hate it when something goes through the cracks and you're like, oh god. And then the vlogs sometimes, like there was one a few weeks ago. Az and I went to a music festival and I didn't own Haaland, and Haaland got a hat trick, and I obviously didn't have him, and Az did. And I do find it funny watching that back now because it was such a fun day, and then that kind of overshadowed things, but it was still really good.
Awesome. I've lost my questions. So this I'm not sure quite how. I'll just phrase this as it's written down. Are you proud to be one of the first female FPL content creators? So we talked a little bit before we came on. Like I'm aware of Nim and Sam, but and you maybe you'll say the other person, but I still think it's a relatively small number.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, Mira, she's one of my favorite content creators to listen to. Her videos are so slick. She does live streams, just chatting away. It's so easy, just easy to consume. Plus, she's good at the game. So you can listen to what she's saying and really take it on board. I used to do a stream with a girl called Ellie Helenek. And she started off doing Chelsea content creation and she's reported at Stamford Bridge. She's done all sorts. So it is really nice having that female community. And I think because I grew up with brothers and then I went into politics. So it was a very like male dominated environment. So I don't necessarily look at the community and say, oh goodness, I'm a woman and I'm the kind of like one of the only female content creators. But it's so good having the other women around because some of the comments you get only they can understand, and it's quite nice going, oh, we're in the same boat here. And I do wish that there were more like females in the space just to normalize it a bit more. And there are so many good like female, because one of my gripes, and I understand why people do it, so it's fine, but is when someone posts their girlfriend's team and they're like, oh, look what my girlfriend's done, and it's a really good score. And I think, oh, why are we mocking this of like, oh, my girlfriend can play FPL? Because they might have just picked them because they're players that they recognize or they find attractive or something like that. But I still think, oh, can we just normalize girls can play FPL as well? Like, it doesn't just have to be.
It's like a derogatory. We should expect girls not to be able to play FPL. That sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I get because sometimes like there will be women that are in on it and they're like, haha, you spend all this time and look what I've just managed to put together. And it happened. My best friend Maria, she was beating Az last season, and she is the most casual player you've ever come across. And obviously Az is going over stats every single game week. So he was really annoyed. And it was funny, but it was more funny because of the amount of time they spent with each other. Whereas if Az was to post and be like, oh, my girlfriend's like female friend got this score, that would
It's
just feel really patronizing.
yeah, just it's quite weird as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think it's more difficult? I mean, obviously, there's no barriers to actually going on YouTube, but do you think it's more
Mm.
difficult for a female content creator to become popular on YouTube or on podcasts or whatever?
I think it's kind of twofold, because I think the fact that you are a female, naturally, you're going to probably have like even just curiosity. I think sometimes it's a bit easier to make yourself stand out because there are so many guys doing content creation, whereas
Mm,
someone might go, oh, there's a woman in the space now, let's see what she's doing. And then when I first begun, I found everyone was so warm to me. Like I was expecting, because football Twitter and FPL Twitter, I think, are two very different beasts. Like football Twitter terrifies me, whereas I think FPL was a bit more cuddly. And then when I came in, everyone was just kind of, I wouldn't say protective, but just very, oh, maybe like, especially the videos I did years and years ago that are now private. I didn't know how the chips worked. I didn't really know what I was doing. And the comments I look back on now are just so supportive, and they're not patronizing. And it was genuine, just good advice. So I think in some ways you do have an advantage because you're creating your own kind of niche already just by being in the space. But then it does come with the, if you have a bad game week and you get the classic like, oh, what does a woman know about football or something like
mm,
that, and you just think, oh, that's such a, if you're going to insult me, make it creative. Like that's just such a template annoying one to get.
yeah, I think my favourite comment on the interview series so far is when Joe, who obviously isn't a female, revealed that it took him 4 months to know how to change his captain. um, what advice would you give to, I guess, to anyone, but maybe specifically, or you could tailor it specifically to females who want to get started in FPL content creation, or I guess football content creation in general?
I think it's just to throw yourself in it and not like doubt yourself or think because I'm a female it's going to hold me back. Because I think then you could, similar to what I was like in the second like season of doing it, where you think I should be doing it this way, whereas actually I think you just need to get out there, see what kind
Mm,
of like style suits you, and then just know that you are going to get negative comments, and the easiest thing for people to come like at you for is probably being female.
mm,
Like that's going to be the first, especially like for trolls. And luckily, it is a very small portion of those comments. And a lot of the time, I find they're not even that into FPL. Like it's just someone that stumbled across the channel and then wants to like have a pop at something. But I just think it's not to try not to think about it really. Like that you might get those comments, put yourself in there and then just kind of see how it goes. And there is that community that will support you. And all of the people that I follow on Blue Sky are just lovely. Like I would never receive anything like that from any of them because again, there's so much support there.
yeah, I think it's interesting, just not specifically female content creators, but like when you think about it, like FPL mate, Raptor, Harry, they're all kind of really competing for views in a way, but they're also
Mm.
like, particularly like Raptor and Harry and Focal, they're all appearing on each other's channels and shouting each other out and stuff. It is a very, yeah, like you said, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Supportive environment.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Sorry.
it's quite easy to like build up those relationships as well. And everyone is so keen to help each other out, which I think is really lovely too. There isn't this, oh, look, there's a new content creator, let's kind of drown them out so they don't get subscribers. It is very much there's room for everyone, which I think is
Mm,
really lovely.
yeah, I think. Should I say this? Yeah, I'll say this. I know that FPL, Fantasy Football Scout Golden Goal was going to appear on FPL Therapy today. He couldn't make it, but I was kind of thinking to Raptor, I got him on here first, so you know he's kind of missed the exclusive. So last question before we talk about mental health, Yelena.
Mhm.
I'm gonna guess. I always have a guess about this one. I'm gonna guess the answer to this is yes. Have you ever been recognised out on the street as FPL Yelena by a stranger, basically?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Often or
Not that often. It happened to me. The weirdest one was I was on my way to a meeting at work and I got into the lift and someone said, this is going to sound really weird, but I watch your YouTube channel. And then I was panicking. Luckily, it was before I was vlogging. So it was very like normal content. But then I was panicking. I was thinking, oh, what have I said in a live stream? Like, how much do they watch? Kind of thing.
yeah, I always think it. See, I think if I saw an FPL content creator, I mean, I listen to a lot of stuff when I'm on the go, so I don't spend that long looking at the screen. I don't think I'd be
Mm.
confident enough to go up and say to
Yeah.
someone, "Are you whoever?" Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would freak me. I don't know. I just wouldn't do it. I don't think.
What's really weird is we've had every holiday Az and I have been on, he's been recognised or we've been recognised as a pair. But the weirdest one was we were in Cape Verde sunbathing, and then we just both like have our eyes shut, and then someone came over and went Az, and we thought that Az had like left something somewhere or something like that. So we both sat up like, yeah. And then this guy was like, oh, I just wanted to say I love the podcast. But it felt really weird because you're there half naked talking to a stranger. It was like a very strange dynamic.
So that would actually make it different. If I saw the two of you together, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
I would know it was, because it would kind of give me the reassurance. But anyway, okay, so we'll go on now to talk a little bit about FPL and mental health, which is a bit of a focus on the channel. I've made some videos, tips from a psychologist on how to cope if you're having a bad game week and with your mental health and fantasy football. If you're struggling with that, or if you struggle with anything like that, I recommend checking it out. So first question, Yelena. I usually put this one like into two parts, so maybe you can answer the first part and then I'll ask you the second part. Has FPL ever had any effect on your mental health and mood? And sort of like, if we block out the content creator part for the moment, just like in terms of as a player.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's probably more since, because when I first started playing, I'd miss deadlines and not think anything of it. I was very, very casual. And then as you want to like do better and you get really into it, it would definitely impact my mood, and it would impact the like transfers I'd make, because I think, well, I'll play it safe because then I won't be as upset if something goes wrong. But I found definitely last season where if life wasn't great and then I had a bad FPL weekend, that was me kind of done for like 2 days. I'd be
Are you
in such a foul mood.
are you a more of a boring Joe type player, or an exciting Mark Southerns type risky
I
player?
fluctuate at the wrong times. So I'll be playing it safe when it's probably safe to take a risk. And then, I mean, this season, game week 2, I took a -4 for Foden because I was like, he's going to be amazing. And then obviously he was benched and it was
That didn't
all.
work out, did it?
No, it's because I had a good start to the season. I got cocky. That's the worst time for me. When I get green arrows, I'm like, woo, I'm a genius. And then I'm not.
And if we think about more as a content creator, and I was going to ask specifically about, I know we've kind of touched on it a little bit anyway, but when FF Scout Joe was on the channel, he was talking about some of the abuse he's received online, and he said that Nim, who was one of the first female content creators, he reckoned had received like 7 times more abuse. So I'm kind of making this a long-winded, complicated question, but has being a content creator affected your mental health, and do you think that's been exasperated by being a female content creator? I'll just shut up and let you answer.
Yeah, I think last season I found it quite hard because when you're having a bad game week, the last thing I want to do is talk about it, and then you have to make a video and then
Yeah.
chat about it. And the thing is, there are some times where you build up these relationships in the community and someone can take the mickey of how your game week's gone, and it's like, ha ha ha, like very funny. But then you'll have some random stranger that's probably been watching your videos but never commented, and then they come in with something and you think, is this a warm dig or are you actually being like nasty? And then that's where it can get a bit frustrating.
What sort of thing would they write?
I don't, it could even just be something like, I don't know, like, oh, what a surprise, you're having another bad game week. It could be quite tame, but when you're feeling like sensitive and you think you're some random stranger having a go at me, like, please don't. But they could be saying it from like a good place, but you take it the wrong way. So yeah, I find that quite hard. And then I found, because towards last season, I was just not in a good place mentally, and then I wasn't enjoying the content. I wasn't doing very well, and something kind of had to give for me to like prioritize my mental health. And I thought, you know what, I'll just not make videos for a while. So that's why on the last day of the season, I thought I'll do this vlog. So at least I've got something to round off the season. And I was really happy with it. And I thought, okay, I've got that kind of buzz back for creation. And then I got a comment on the video, and it was like, you don't have many subscribers, you don't get many views, you're not very good at the game, maybe you should pack it in. And I was
Oh,
like,
it's
this is
horrible.
my hobby. So I replied and just said, oh, this is actually my hobby. I really enjoy it. It's what I do in my spare time. And then they came back again. Why are you doing it though? Because you're not very good at it. You're not getting views. Look at your views for the last year. And you think this is what I do. This is like my escapism. And now it
Mm.
doesn't feel like that. And then what really pissed me off was they then commented on Blackbox channel, and they said, uh, you've been slacking on the videos, and Mark had been having like health issues. That's why the videos hadn't been as consistent over on
Oh, so
Blackbox, which they've both,
they were criticising Black Box.
yeah, which
Right,
they've
right.
both, they've like Mark and Az have both been very open about that. And it's like, sorry, real life's gotten in the way. You can't do an episode this week or something like that. And people don't understand how much effort goes into, especially a show like Blackbox. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes.
And as
So this
always,
comment,
usually has someone fill in as well, doesn't he?
yeah. And also that can be at short notice. Like, it's not easy just to be able to get someone to give up 2.5 hours of their night to chat about FPL. So this comment was criticizing that. And then it said, perhaps if Yelena wasn't distracting Az so much, we'd have more consistency. And I think about it now, and it really, really pisses me off, because I just think, in what world would you comment that about anything else? That is, it really annoyed me. So it's things like that.
It makes you think, like, what's this person? How sad are they to be going around making these comments?
And that's what, and I think as a female, weirdly, most of the kind of I wouldn't say abuse, because it's not at that level, but like the negative comments are always to do with Az. And I had one where this guy DM'd me all photos from Az's various social medias of like relationships from 10 years ago, saying, look at how he looks at her, you'll never be her. It was the weirdest thing. And that was on my Twitter DMs.
I didn't quite get that. So he was.
So basically, Az had a relationship years and years, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And someone had gone onto Az's Facebook and copied pictures and links from photos where he was with his ex, or photos of him with like random girls, DM'd them to me on X and was like, don't fall for it. He'll never look at you this way. It was so weird. And it's that kind of thing. I'm like, why? Because it's great having Az, like, he's in content creation. He understands it. He's good to talk to when I do get negative comments. But I try to distance us a bit, especially on X, because like there was a lot of negativity there. And then I'd post something with Az, because I stopped putting him in my live stream thumbnails because people were commenting and saying, oh, she's just using you for views. And I was like, if I was at a point in life that I was dating a guy just to put him in my fantasy football thumbnails, I'd have to reconsider everything. Like, that is not going to be my goal. I'm going to go for, like, I don't know, someone like massively famous. Like, there'll be something else. God bless him. He's doing well in FPL. But
not fantasy football.
No, that's really aiming low. And it's things like that where I just think, oh, there's so much more to life than, I think people just get a bit too involved sometimes. And then it feels like the fact that I'm the one distracting Az, apparently, and that's why Blackbox isn't going up. Like, that's so not true.
So, Yelena, I know this is inappropriate, but I'm going to put it in the thumbnail. Yelena says that going out with Az is aiming low or something. I'm not really. Yeah, that sounds like...
I've said it to him before.
Yeah, Brad Pitt. He's probably a bit old for you, but yeah. It sounds like almost like that guy was trying to break you up or something. Like, sending
it's
messages
really
like
weird. And there was this one account that we found quite funny. But he went through a phase. He messaged Az and was like, "Oh, you're a player, like hats off to you," or something. But then he was tweeting me. He tweeted me really creepy things, and he was one of those ones where you go on the profile and you're like, oh my god, like, what's happening here? And then he was DMing me all these weird things, and then one day he just tweeted me and he was like, you'll never be good enough for Az, and that was it.
Really?
And then I wanted to screenshot the DMs where he'd message me like, hey sexy lady, or something like that, and be like, but I thought, no, this guy kind of creeps me out a bit. I'm not gonna rise to that.
I assume you end up blocking and deleting and muting them, like most
I
of
never
them.
block. But yeah, I've muted so many accounts.
Yeah, I think every single person who's come on pretty much has said that. So how do you cope with that? If that's a question, just shut it off, or
Yeah, I mean, the problem is I am a bit annoyed with myself because now I don't read the comments on my YouTube videos, which is annoying
That's a shame.
because, yeah, I'd say like 99% of them are really nice, and my viewers are so lovely and so supportive and just absolutely great. So I'll message Az, which just sounds pathetic, but it is the way that I'm coping with it at the moment. But I'll message Az and be like, are the comments okay? And he's like, yeah, they're fine. So then I'll check them, or I'll upload a video and then I'll kind of wait 2 days, then I'll check the comments. But it is definitely like a newfound anxiety with social media that I didn't really have before. And then like Twitter, I just very rarely tweeted. Whereas Blue Sky, the audience just seems a lot nicer, and the kind of people that I'm chatting to, it's a lot more of a friendlier platform. So like yesterday, I tagged Az in a post that I made because we did the hot wings challenge with all the different hot sauces.
Yeah.
But if that had been on Twitter, I probably wouldn't have posted about it, or I would have posted but not tagged him in it. So it's weird, like just kind of small adjustments I make to like protect myself in case someone says something. Whereas before, I feel like it was just a really fun platform and I'd post anything without thinking. Whereas now I'm like a bit paranoid about it.
Yeah, it's a shame. Where did you post that? I was looking at your channel all day for that. And
Oh, it's going up tomorrow or
oh,
Wednesday.
okay. I'll keep
I
my eye
had to
out for
recover today.
it. Yeah, we spoke about it before. Yeah, I can sort of empathise. I've only had a couple of negative comments on here, but it does kind of like
Mm.
but what I've done every time I've read somewhere that all engagement increases like
Yeah.
the metrics. So anytime anyone's written it was on my I did a ranking tier list video. I don't know if you've watched it.
Yeah,
And
I saw.
anytime anyone, a couple of them were like, never rank again and stuff. And I'm just like, thanks for the comment, mate, and love it.
I had that. I had a few weeks ago. There was a argument going on my channel, and I think we ended up having about 17 comments, and I was getting frustrated with the conversation, but I was like, this is great for the algorithm.
Yeah, maybe you might have to spark up some more arguments of
Yeah.
as. What advice would you give to anyone? So just going to a more general perspective here of an FPL player, what advice would you give to anyone who's struggling with their mood or mental health this season?
I think probably finding out what the like root cause of it is, because mine was more to do with having to talk about it or having people take the mickey. Because I found it as well once I got into the content creation, the mini league that I'm in with work. The minute someone overtook me, it was like, "Ha ha! Look how I've done." But if I was overtaking them, it was silence.
Yeah.
But suddenly, because you've got this platform, it's like, "Oh, you should be number one," and because you're not, I'll rub it in. So that was kind of what was winding me up the most. And then that was last season. I took myself away from YouTube, and then I found it easier dealing with the bad game week. And I think also going with your gut instinct is probably the biggest thing, because I hate it. You'll see a tweet and someone will ask for advice. They'll get the advice, they take it, and then it turns out to be the wrong decision. And then they'll sometimes go back to that content creator and go, "Well, thanks for that." And I think, no, you can't blame someone else. If you have a gut instinct for something, just go for that. And if it doesn't work out, I feel like it's easier to get over, because you go, I had a feeling, I went with it, that's that. The worst thing you can do is go with something because everyone else has done it and you're trying to like follow the crowd.
Mm.
So I think it's just kind of having that, taking responsibility for things. And then if it does get too much, just have a break from it, because the game's always going to be there. But your mental health needs to have that priority, really.
Yeah, I never watched. I made a video about deadline streams again. I don't know if you've watched that one, but
Yeah.
basically, what I say, I never watch deadline streams because no, partly from a mental health perspective, but also if I change my decision that I was going to make before that deadline stream, and that it doesn't work out, not only does it, make me have a worse game week, but I get so pissed off that I didn't go with that original
Yeah.
thing, and you don't feel like you own. It's much better to fuck up by yourself than
Yeah,
feel
definitely.
like someone else is doing it for you. Any other advice on that?
I think the other one as well is sometimes with group chats, they can take over a bit. I love, like, there's on my iPhone the do not disturb feature. I love that at the weekend. I don't check. I've stopped checking my scores during the game week as well. So I
It's
still
good
don't know
advice.
how
Yeah.
I'm like doing by like a Saturday night, say. And then I'll check it right at the end when everything's like all said and done, final whistle's gone. And that's really helped me too. Because I found, like, even like Az is the opposite. He has to check like every bonus point every minute. But he'll say to me, like, there was last season, Ollie Watkins got a hat trick against Brighton, and I think it was the first kickoff. So my rank flew up. I was doing so well. And Az told me that. So then I spent the rest of the weekend just watching myself get a worse and worse rank as the other players were playing. And I hate that. So I think mute the group chats if it's getting too much. Don't check your rank during the game week. It's just all those small things that can really help. And then they help you enjoy your weekend as well. So you're not constantly thinking about football.
Yeah, I think we might have dated this video at this point anyway. I'm probably more an as because it's 8:30. It's 8:30 on a Monday night, and I have Isaac playing, who I transferred in this week, and I'm just desperate to go on my phone and see if he's done anything.
Do you know what? When I said 7:30 on a Monday, I was like, that's perfect. And then I transferred in Isak, and I thought, oh no, I'm going to be recording during the Newcastle game.
But when we finish the recording, we will switch off and see that he scored 7 goals. And
yeah, I'm expecting a brace minimum.
We'll be delighted. My worst one this week was I benched Cunha for him, who scored 6. Anyway. So this is a bit more of a conceptual question, but I know you've watched some of the videos, so hopefully you've thought about it a bit or had a bit of a chance to think about it beforehand. Do you think there are any changes FPL themselves can make, and maybe not just FPL, but there are other websites, Fan Team or the Telegraph, those any sort of fantasy football website that anything they could do to help the mental health of their players?
Yeah, I think that the one that I always think I'd really struggle with is being like in Australia or being abroad and not being able to be awake for the kind of leaks and things. So I think I'd prefer it if I don't think it would be practical, but I feel like having the deadline way before kickoff, like 12 hours or something, would be nice because then people could just set their teams and then carry on with their weekend and not have to worry about like the deadline streams or setting an alarm because it's 3 a.m. where you are and we've got the deadline at 11. And then I think also maybe having more rewards. So I think I like what they tried to do with Challenge, where you could just have this weekly game and then you could win, you could be number one in that game week. And I kind of feel like it would be nicer if within the main fantasy football game, it was like you've scored the most like captaincy points so far this season, or you're the top 1% for this, and just having kind of a bit more of a rewarding. Whereas it feels a bit savage sometimes, especially those players where they're 300th in the world, have one poor game week, and then suddenly their rank is like in the tens of thousands. So it'd just be quite nice having a bit more, I don't know, to just like reward you or feel like you're not doing that badly. Because especially if you are in a mini league, like at the moment, I'm bottom of all of my mini leagues with the community. The ones from work I'm still top of because everyone's rubbish. But it would just be nice to have something where I go, oh, okay, I can still salvage the season, or I'm not awful at this game. Whereas I think sometimes you feel like every single decision goes against you and then you just get a bit drowned with it.
Do you use FPL Live Rank at all?
I used to. I only use that now at the end of the game week.
I like something they've done. They've brought in, I can't show it on the screen because we're recording on OBS, but it basically says like, because I've just got into the top million the last couple of game weeks, it says like world class free.
Oh yeah.
Because you're in the top 10% of players, like that seems like a decent way of, like you say, basically rewarding. I mean, I guess if you're down at like 7 million, it's probably not, but you're probably not. You're probably realistically not going to care if you're down at 7 million.
But it might be like most unique team or something. I'm sure there's an award for someone at 7 million.
Yeah, you're a lunatic who transferred in.
Why are you still playing? But that's the thing. I think sometimes with FPL, I sometimes think they're actually a bit behind because you look at like live FPL and even plan FPL and things like that. They're so far ahead. Yeah. And I hope that if they do kind of evolve, they bring those people in rather than just taking the ideas and going with them, because there are so many better tools, I think, out there than the actual FPL app.
And I think the guy that does, I know live FPL now does have adverts on it, but the one where you build your team, what you just said it,
plan FPL.
Yeah, I think that's completely for free, isn't it? Like,
it's,
like to rip him off basically, and when he's not been getting any money in the first place, would seem like a bit of a piss take. Anything else, Yelena?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. So we generally finish by just talking about how your season's going generally. How is your season? You've been looking forward to this, but I can tell. How is your season going? You suggested it earlier on. It might not be the greatest.
Yeah, it's awful. Since taking it seriously, this is the worst season I've had. Because I think my first game week, I was like 180k and I
That's
was really
good.
happy. And I went without Haaland. And then I made poor captaincy choices. The annoying thing is, if I hadn't have wildcarded whenever I did, game week 5 or 6, and kept Salah, I would have still had Salah, would have had Palmer, sold Palmer the week before or the week of his 4 goals, which is awful. And I just feel like every decision I've made has just been the wrong one so far this season. I did bring in Salah recently, so hopefully that by the time this goes out, hopefully that's still working in my favour.
Well, the wild card week, game week 6 was just, I did the same. It was just an absolute shit show,
Mm,
wasn't it? It was like all the trends for that one, like double Arsenal defence, or
yeah,
I can't remember who else was on in that sort of template, but it all just seemed to go wrong at the same time.
yeah.
Um, do you watch? So I know you watch a lot of FPL content because you're often in the chat of Elite FPL and FPL Juice. Do you watch Backbox?
I used to when I was like trying to impress Az. Now it's dipped off a bit. The thing is, I hear so much behind the scenes from them. So I do really enjoy it. And like the other night, they did a Friday night stream, which went on till about midnight. And I commented in the chat, and Az was like, I had no idea you were here. And I was like, oh, I do dip in and out. But I found sometimes I'd get swayed because Az would talk about his transfer plans. And then I'd think, maybe I should do similar because then we're in the same boat this weekend
Yeah.
and we'll be either celebrating or not. But then I went against it. He said there were 2 players that he was frightened of. So I brought them into my team because I thought it would be more entertaining.
Who are your, apart from me obviously, um, who are your favourite like FPL content creators?
You know what? You say that as a joke. FPL have a beer. I absolutely. There's nothing else like it out there. It's so easy to listen to, and also seeing the managers from another side and just being able to have that chat. I mean, if you're Steve-O, you go on for days, but
Yeah.
everyone else, it's like an hour. It's so good. But I
Well,
think
my friend asked me just before I started this, like, how are you getting all these amazing managers on? And I think part of it is, you can tell me if I'm wrong, it's nice to have an opportunity to maybe talk about things that you might not have the scope to talk about on other channels. I don't know.
no, definitely. And it was like today, I said to you, I was feeling a bit worse for wear, a bit hungover. And I said to Az, thank God it's just like an easygoing chat rather than having to talk about my differential of the week or something like that, because I would have to cancel.
So yeah, but who are your favourite content creators?
So FPL Mira, who I mentioned earlier, obviously FPL Juice. I just think they're such a lovely. It's just a great atmosphere. And if you have a bad game week, I feel like you can watch Juice and just feel fine about it. That you play the game for fun. Alf has just started his channel. I really enjoy his content. And then obviously like Harry, Ross, Focal, they're just in a whole other league. But I think their content is so easy to consume. There's probably someone else I've missed, but they're the main ones.
Congratulations to FPL Focal for winning the Content Creator
Yeah.
Award. Yeah, Content Creator Award. Were you nominated for anything, Yelena?
No, I've never put myself up for it.
You have to put yourself up for it.
Yeah, if you get people to nominate you, and then I think once you get a certain amount, then you get shortlisted. But yeah, no, I've never put myself up for it. Maybe next year after the vlogging, see how that goes.
I'm assuming Black Box and that would.
Yeah, they've won it twice. There's a trophy.
Have they?
Yeah. You can't see them. They're glass trophies. Take my word for it. They are on these shelves. But Az was a judge this year, so they couldn't go into it.
What do they judge on? Sorry.
There's all different categories. So they have changed it because I think the last 2 years, I may be wrong here, but I think there was a bit of controversy because you'd have FPL content creators up against like football content creators, which were much bigger.
Yeah, that doesn't
and the
seem,
categories,
that doesn't
yeah,
seem
the
right.
categories were all a bit weird. But I think Focal, maybe it was him, a few years ago was in like the best newcomer category, but against like these huge accounts. And I think he still managed to place. I can't remember where he came. But yeah, this year it's been much more specific to kind of like the new FPL content creators. So I think it was a bit fairer this time around.
I don't know, the content creator in my head is imagining me making a video on FPL content awards. Sorry, I'm going off. So last question, Yelena. you may say that I'm not asking the best person here, considering the start to the season you've had. But what advice would you give to players in general, just in terms of how to play FPL well?
Well, I would say template, which the template's harder this season. I think there are a lot of different avenues you can go down, and we've seen some teams like that's another content creator that I love, Planet FPL.
Mm.
James is having an insane season,
Is
and
he?
he,
I haven't watched
yeah,
him recently.
really, he's doing really, really well. Or I haven't seen his rank in the last 2 game weeks, but he's definitely being like, I think top 10k.
Okay.
But he's made decisions where it's the classic. He posts his team for the week, and then the tweets are like, "What are you thinking? Why would you do that? Why haven't you got so and so? How can you go without Haaland?" And then it just comes through. Like he's just having such an incredible season. So I think that's obviously James. I think out of all of the content creators, football wise, he knows his stuff. Like he's just so knowledgeable.
It's actually
But
it's actually surprised me because I have been watching. I don't watch them every week or anything, but I've been watching them on off for about 5 years. He generally doesn't finish that. Considering he's so knowledgeable, his
yeah,
finishes usually aren't actually that great, are they?
no, and that's what I think is so great for him this season, having such a good finish. And what I love as well is he hasn't changed his content, because I think a lot of content creators now would go, check out this video. I'm currently ranked at X, and
Yeah.
these are the players you should bring in, and this is how I got this rank. And James is just like, yeah, that's cool, but Spurs winning. Anyway, here's the podcast. Like it's just it hasn't changed him. And I think some content creators do get guilty of having a really good couple of weeks, and that's in every thumbnail, every title. And then if it drops off, the comments then are like, well, why am I going to copy your team? And you think, oh, you kind of built that for yourself by setting these high expectations. But I think probably it's more playing it safe, and then taking risks once you're at a more comfortable rank, and then going like, I love to have like one fun pick, I say, and that's kind of like my Strand Larson or Chris Wood or something. But I went overboard with that because I had 3 in my team, and then it all went downhill from there. But I think it's just playing it safe, like going for like the kind of obvious picks, and then branching out and having a bit more fun probably down the line.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but I would say maybe rather than when you have a good rank, maybe later in the season.
Yeah.
Would you
Oh,
do
yeah,
that?
definitely. It's kind of at the moment, it's still fine margins, isn't it? 30 points can give you a huge rank boost. Whereas towards the end, where it's more like 50 points separates you from the next person in a mini league, when you've got that space or that gap and you're kind of quite comfortable being able to like take the risk then. The problem with me is I can't wait that long. So like this season, it was game week 2 that I took a hit.
Yeah. Give me 2.
Yeah, for Foden, I took a -4.
Wow, wow. And you didn't have any
I know.
injuries or anything?
No,
Okay. You're a
it made no sense.
You're a risky manager. You're a risky manager.
Yeah, I regret that now.
Any other advice?
Have fun.
Have fun. Yeah, exactly.
It is just a game.
I think that's a good place to end it. Yelena, thank you so much for coming onto the channel. It's been delightful talking to you. Please do give Az and Mark Southerns a nudge for me that I want to want to get them on here at some point.
I will. I definitely
That would
will.
be much appreciated. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been great.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe to help the channel get great managers like Yelena on, and to hopefully get up to 200 subscribers by Christmas. That would be amazing. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.